I'm missing my camera. All right, where are we? Here we go, kiddies. I had it on the wrong camera. Oh, man. Way to blow your entrance. Oh, wait, I have to do one more thing. Welcome to the Shuffle Evolution Part 2, live stream number 18, episode 18. And I was actually going to do this little thing and then ask you what tune this is from, but... What's that groove from? Name that tune. I'm just real quick. I just want to pull up my chat window because if I know it's working, then that'll be a good thing. Okay, I think it's there. I think it'd be there. So I'm doing this thing through Restream, so you'll have to bear with me if there's issues. I'm getting used to this whole multi-streaming platform. So this is kind of a new thing for me. I did it the other night on my hand technique workshop while we were streaming a Zoom class at the same time. It seemed to work out pretty well. So I'm doing it tonight for the Shuffle Evolution. Those of you who caught part 1, we were doing some of the beginnings of technique of shuffles and sort of the origin kind of parts of the groove. I do want to give some nods to some people before we really get rolling. And so one is these books. So make sure you have this. To me, this is kind of the original, even though it's not, technically it's not shuffles, it's all jazz ride pattern stuff. But because the shuffle comes from swing, this book is a must-have in your arsenal. Jim Chapman's Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, the godfather of independence. And ironically, he died on Independence Day. But of course, you know, he was a important educator, drummer in our history. And this is one of the premier books on independence ever. So make sure you have this. So Chapin's book, we call it the Chapin book, right? And then a few other things that I think you guys should have. So this book. So Daniel Glass and Zorro put together early rhythm and blues drumming. This has like the whole evolution of the shuffle is in here. So this is a super important book. It's great. It's just laid out really well. It's got all the history. I am not a historian, but I am very, very much inspired by this book by Daniel Glass and Zorro. And Stanton's book, Groove Alchemy's got a whole shuffle section. Amazing stuff. Even, you know, just, first of all, you should have this in your library, but all the James Brown stuff is in here. All the Zig stuff, the meter stuff is in here. You need that. It's got tons of shuffles. My book has a shuffle fill section, so make sure you check that out and filling in the grooves. And the other thing I want to mention is, and I signed up for it today, is Daniel Glass has a course called the Best Damn Shuffle Course Ever. So look up danielglass.com and look for he's running a special right now. So look up his shuffle course on his website. So super, super important resources that are out there. And Daniel and Stan, these are guys that know the history really well and know the origins of this stuff. And Daniel is, like, to me, one of the most amazing jazz historians. Plus, he's a southpaw like me, so he's on a lefty kit. And, you know, we like to say that it's reverse, not backwards, right? But so Daniel, you know, is also a southpaw and a hell of a great guy. And hopefully this pandemic will be over soon and people will be back in the clubs playing, and he'll be back at his Birdland Monday night thing. So hopefully soon. So anyway, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through, I'm going to split screen with the book a little bit and kind of show you some of the stuff. I'm going to do a very quick review of some things that we did originally and then jump into the Modernizing the Shuffle section of the book. So here's one thing I want to say is that I sent out a PDF of this to all of my subscribers earlier today, not much earlier, but earlier today, and that's already changed. So guys, don't print it out. Look at it, as a streaming thing, and don't print it because there's a new one already. So the one that I'm going to share tonight is the most current copy of it, because I realized that there are some pages that over the years, over time as this has evolved, some things wound up on a different version, didn't wind up on this version, so I put it all together. It's all there, and it's not done. It's still evolving, hence the shuffle evolution. And so I will start with one other thing saying this, and this is, people have heard this about other drummers as well, way more famous than me, but I hated shuffles, and there's a great story about, and actually Picaro tells this story in a few instances that I've seen. He was doing it looked like a college or a high school clinic, and he was saying how he hated shuffles. So I hated shuffles, and I hated them because I wasn't good at them originally. And so, when I was studying at the Collective, and I remember Kim Plainfield was like, "Hey man, I got this blues gig that you could sub on," and I was like, I turned white. I was like, "Oh my God, I do not have my shuffle game together." And so that moment on made me really start to focus on at least getting some shuffles in my bag that I can use. And it's turned out to be really important for me because it has employed me in many instances where, listen, if you're playing drums, you need to know how to play a shuffle, but there are all different kinds of shuffles and feels. And so we're going to go through a few, and some of the stuff that I've had to do in my bands, I'll make mention of. But there's, of course, many very famous shuffles that we're all inspired by, and I'm going to try to touch on some of the elements of those things. So, talking a mile a minute, I'm going to slow down and show you how this little booklet works, and hopefully I can split screen this right now. Oh, I brought up the chat, so that's kind of cool. Let me just check this out real quick, because last time I couldn't see it. And this time I made it nice and big because I'm blind. Pat Ross in the house. Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. So back to that. So I didn't open with Lido Shuffle, but it was very close. Too late, you printed it. Yeah! Bob, I will send you some, the new one, and then you'll have to print out the pages that are missing and kind of inject them. I think that'll probably be the best way. My mom is in the house, and for those of you who don't know my mom, Dale Toscano, I do need to keep the pictures on hand so I can just insert it into the live stream. But yeah, so my mom is in the house. She created this madness. I want to blame her for that, but it's really not her fault. She thought I should keep busy. She got me drum lessons. End of story. That's kind of what happened. So let's see who else is in the house. Hey, Jim. It is Jonathan Schneider. What's up, Schneiderwitz? How you doing, man? John Schneider, man. Longtime student. Great kid. Love him. He's like my other... Well, I don't have any sons. I have daughters. So he's my foster child. Or I'm his second dad. There's something like that. He's a great kid and really super talented. So watch out for John Schneider. He's going to be coming up. Nico the filmmaker in the house. Love it. Hello, Nico. How are you, sir? Nico he sent me a video, which I haven't seen yet, but I will see it. I promise you. Real quick, before I start playing, I have to tell a really quick weird story. So people go, I've had this when I did, I think it was on Musicians on the Record, when I did that interview show. Which is a great show. Make sure you watch Musicians on the Record. Very, very cool. So I told this story because it's really bizarre, but people say like, oh, when did you start playing, or how did you start playing? And I started playing. I had just a practice pad like most kids, playing in school. And I didn't have a drum set, but on the way home, from school one day, I found a bass drum, and it was like a red pearl bass drum. And I swear to God, it was in a tree, on the branch of a tree. And I'm walking home from school, and I see this bass drum, and I'm like, ah. So I grab the bass drum out of the tree. I think I climbed up a little bit, got to the branch, and kind of pulled the thing down. And I took it home, and it had one drum head on it that was pretty worn. Didn't have a drum head on the other side. I flipped it over like a table, and I had some, pair of sticks, and I played on that drum. That was my first drum, was that flipped over like a table bass drum. And that was super exciting for me because that was really the first instrument that I owned. And before that, it was pots and pans and pillows and paint cans and all kinds of stuff. But that was my first drum, so I figured I'd tell that story real quick before I jump into the shuffles. Now, as far as what the song was, check this out. And I'm going to get into this in the modernizing the shuffle part. So, Lido Shuffle, right? We all know that one. So I'm going to play it a little under tempo. And we have this pattern. Now, check out let me hit my live thing. Check out the ghosting pattern in this one. Right? Lido. The other one. And then the B section of that tune went to this, which I love this shuffle. So, what is that? What is it? Who knows what it could be? What could it be? Jim, you're looking good. Thanks, Mom. I need a haircut, though. I desperately need a haircut. And hopefully by the time that we do this next live stream, I will have a haircut. I can only hope. I can only hope. So that one, and by the way, yes, the drummer on Lido Shuffle was Jeff Porcaro, correct? But the one that I just played was not Jeff Porcaro. The one that I was comparing, the one that I sort of opened with. I blew my opening because I didn't have it ready. I had the wrong camera. Okay, so the chat is slightly delayed, so I think I will wind up seeing it shortly, but I'll come back to it. So here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to tell you yet what it is. I want somebody to guess. I know John knows because he's played this tune for me for a couple of things, but let me go to my splits. So can we see the split screen? Let me see what this looks like. Yeah, that is it. All right, I think the split screen's working. Okay, here we go. So I'll come back to the chat, I promise. And I really appreciate, anybody that's hanging in here tonight with me. So, we went through the first time we went through sort of the traditions, right? And I kind of broke it down from, okay, what is a shuffle? It's the first and third partial, sort of, right? Because there's many versions of a shuffle, but technically the ride pattern is the first and third partial of the triplet. And so we had talked about originally, playing triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, and then using sort of a molar method, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, down tap up for the triplet feel. And then I was kind of just showing how, in my philosophy, that once you remove that middle note, the tap, instead of having down tap up, we're left with a down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, if you're playing on a hi-hat, it's all staccato, correct? And we're going to be doing more of that tonight than we did last time. If you're on the ride cymbal, it's more of a sort of long, short, long kind of sound. And, you know, we had talked about originally, you know, just basically even if you held the stick like a loose, but like with a fist, letting the stick just bounce right off the ride cymbal, right? We know it's going to come back to us if we relinquish the stick. If you do this and then pull up, that is the most counterproductive, dead kind of sounding movement, right? So we're just going to throw it to the cymbal and let the cymbal throw it back. And you hear how more open that sound is because the stick is able to resonate, because our hand is open. We have that resonating chamber. I love the baby bird concept that I heard Zuckerman talking about, and other educators, but I'm mentioning Zuckerman. And, you know, letting the stick just come back off the cymbal. And then when we're playing that shuffle pattern, we're doing this sort of long, short, long, short, long, short, long. And I'm using sort of a push-pull with my hand. And, you know, basically letting the stick come over the fulcrum. And that really does open up the sound. Then if you were a grippy drummer, and you were going, that would not sound great. The other thing is, you know, you notice it's a rotation of the radius ulna, right? Okay, so, and this is all covered in the first one, right? So I'm going to skip through some of this. I'm just kind of doing a quick review, if you will. Appease me. So, you know, now we went through sort of that basic stuff early on. We did the Texas style shuffle. We did the Chicago shuffle. The Texas, if you remember, well, the Texas shuffle, the difference between sort of the hand pattern that I was using for that is that the Texas shuffle plays quarter notes. So we were doing this. And on this one, you know, it's really important that all your limbs are super lined up, right? That connection here. This is your backbeat, really. Bass drum. Right, so more of a quarter note feel. Then we worked on the Chicago shuffle where we're playing basically double hands. Right? And then we went to Chicago style shuffle with the jazz ride pattern. Right? And we're keeping this pretty triplety. I felt in that one I was going to sneak into more of a later swing where we push it to the 16th note almost, which is a similar shuffle, but the feel is different. You know, the way it's written out, you might see it written the same, but you can change the feel by moving the swing note, right? So if I did this, very triplety, very nice and legato, right? But if I push that over, and you can even move it further. You can get it closer to a 32nd note. But yeah, you can play around with the swing feel depending on the type of tune that it is. Somewhere in between swung or like really swung out. And then I had my little sneaky triplet thing, which was this. I like playing that traditional better, that particular little thing. But so that was our sneaky triplet, right? And then we had the let shuffle, right? 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1. The hi-hat really becomes the backbeat with that, right? And I'm kind of exaggerating. That really has nice momentum. And, you know, at quicker tempos, right? That's just a nice feel. It can cook. So that's the upstroke or the let shuffle. And that was a way quick review of just kind of some of the stuff we did in that first one. So now we're going to talk about modernizing the shuffle. I know I began this a little bit last time. But so this is, you know, basically starting to look at inserting these ghost notes in different spots. And, you know, I mean, I'm skipping over a whole thing. I think we did this last time, but the shuffle doesn't always have to be a ride cymbal or a hi-hat pattern. It could be a snare pattern. If you go through this, the early rhythm and blues, the commandments of early rhythm and blues, there's some great early music cited where the shuffles are being played as more of snare patterns, right? And there's my band, Giant Flying Turtles, some of our earlier swingy stuff, we were kind of playing these kind of shuffles, which are swung train beats kind of. So there's a whole nother area of this that we could explore. I mean, look, there's a lot of shuffles, and we could probably go into all different kinds of stuff. But I am going to concentrate on the modernizing stuff. But just real quick, appease me with this. So this kind of stuff where we have more of like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And that's more of like a rockabilly kind of feel, right? And we're playing the swung shuffle feel. Like if you listen to Bill Haley in the comments or something like that, you would hear those kind of feels, right? Man, when I was a kid, I thought it was always this. But that was the bass. The bass player, you know, thumping on the bass, making that rockabilly sound. And, you know, the guy, Calvin Bennett, that plays bass for Giant Flying Turtles, does a lot of that. And it's pretty cool. It's a clicky sound that almost sounds like it's a drum or a percussion instrument, right? So, and on early rockabilly stuff, I mean, if you think about it, bass drum, cymbal, snare, and then that. You don't need anything else, right? All right. So modernizing the shuffle. So I kind of talk about, spend some time on sort of the technique of this stuff. So utilizing these two movements as sort of a muscle memory exercise. So playing a down, up kind of motion, low molar, down, up, 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 down. So you're really not having to play the upstroke of the triplet. You're stealing that one on the way up. 1, lit 2, lit 3, lit 4, lit 1, lit 2, 3, lit 4, lit 1. And then we're going to tap the middle partial of the triplet and ghost that. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. And notice I'm playing very, very close to the drum. And this is worth spending some time on if this isn't in your wheelhouse. You know, if you have your ghost notes together and they feel great, you can kind of skip this part. But if you struggle with that, getting that really, really quiet and getting this to feel like a chat, 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 it should feel like constant triplets. That middle note is filling in that little gap, right? And you could start to shoulder the stick to get more of an accent on the downbeat, and then play the upstroke quieter if you want to get a little more emphasis on the quarter note. I'm still using shoulder and then the tip on the way up. That'll give you a little bit more of a rock edge. So like if I was playing, like just I'll play kind of straight, like a 1 and 3. But if I was playing like a so I'm playing, getting it really hard edged on that quarter note. Now if I play here, it evens it out just a little bit more. It still has that quarter note accent, but not quite as heavy a rock feel for that. I mean, if you wanted to make that all even, you could play wrist strokes for that, right? Now they're all the same volume. But if you want that emphasis in that little lope that's in there, 1, let 2, let 3, let 4. I like the feeling of that. So that's the muscle memory exercise. Now, if we just take the first one of those and we start to insert a backbeat, this is just to kind of feel how we use the upstroke on the snare to accommodate that downbeat that's going to come on 2, 1, 2, a 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 triplet, 2. Right? So now we have to simultaneously get that. Now we are doing this up-down motion with the hi-hat, so they will align on the backbeat. But this one's going to come up before this one, right? So we get this, if I'm doing this, and then I'll just put the backbeat every other one. Right? 1 triplet, 2, 1 triplet, 2, 1 triplet, 2, 1 triplet, 2. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. Okay? Now we're going to put in, I put in this quarter note ghost pattern, which this is going to bring me back to the tune from before, but it's this. 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1 triplet, 2. So that bar number 19, I just want to check real quick over on the chat land. So what was that? Who knows? Does anybody know? I don't know if anybody knows. Maybe somebody knows. I'm not sure. So check this out. So this one is reeling in the ears. So anyway, just in case you missed that from before, Jim Mola, what's up, baby? How you doing, man? So nice to have Jim in here. That's awesome. So back to the splits here. Let's, Jim Mola, man. Well, I have stories, but I'm not going to go into that. Jim Mola is a great guy, great educator at the Collective in New York City. Love him. And the last time Jim and I were able to speak, we were talking about the beginning of the pandemic. There was a pasta pandemic going on, and it was Rigatoni 19 pasta pandemic. Because I went in the grocery store right at the beginning of the pandemic, and there was not a stitch of pasta left. Except for occasionally Rotelli pasta. Like, I guess people don't like that. You'd find that one, but everything else would be gone. No penne, no ziti. All right, anyway. So back to this. So now we're playing that quarter note triplet pulse, but it's displaced. So it's 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2. By the way, sticking choreography. Tap, up, down, 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 tap. Right? And then this one's doing down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And that's from that tune, Reelin' in the Years. So what I was playing at the top was this. Verse part. Right, so that little quarter note triplet, offset quarter note triplet, not Porcaro, by the way. Jim Hodder played drums on that. Jim Hodder lived up the road from my grandmother, and when I was a little kid, I didn't know that he was of Steely Dan fame, and he was. I became aware of him from Chet DeBow, who has influenced me to play drums and to keep drumming. And I meant to mention his book before, by the way. My first shuffle book was the Shuffle Workbook by Chet DeBow, which is on my bookshelf, and I couldn't find it. I have so many books on there, I have to alphabetize them. I wanted to show you Chet DeBow's Shuffle Drumming Workbook, because that was my first shuffle book that I had as a kid. And honestly, I hated it. It was a great book, but it kicked my butt. And so I hated it for that reason, because I couldn't play all the stuff. And I worked hard on shuffles later and got better at it, but in the beginning, that was tough. And for most drummers, this is a rough patch, right, for guys. Daniel Glass mentions that. You know, it's like, this for a lot of drummers, this is sort of that, you know, Achilles heel thing. It's like, this is the one thing that drives people crazy, you know. And it's worth putting in the time. And that's why I wrote out this sort of evolution. You know, it's more of not the historical evolution so much. There is a historical evolution here. But it's sort of the evolution of the groove itself and how it changes over time and continues to change. Every once in a while, I'll hear a shuffle that I'm like, what? I never heard that one before. And then jot that one down, and it goes in the evolution. So anyway, here we go. So the quarter note triple pulse. Now let's go down to the next one. Now I wrote in a lot of arrows and T's and little symbols that I use to represent how this works. So if you look at the triplets, it's got a down, up motion. The middle note has a T for tap. The circle with a down arrow is both hands coming down together. That's kind of my representation. So now if we look at this next measure, measure 20, this is the double stroke backbeat. I call it a slapback. Double stroke backbeat, we're playing 2-trip. And basically what I want you to do is hit the drum and allow the stick to rebound, and then you're getting ready to pick that stick up. In this case, later on, you're going to leave it down. But watch. If we're going no ghost notes for a moment. 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1, let 2, let 3, let 4. 1, a 2 triplet, 3, let 4 triplet, 1, a 2 triplet, 3, let 4 triplet, 1, a... So I'm hitting and really letting it just rebound. I'm not playing that second stroke. The stick is playing it. There's a little lilt in my wrist to get that down a little bit lower and get it super quiet. Because you don't want this, right? If your double stroke backbeat sounds like that, not very subtle, right? So I would say you want to work on the height of the stick height of that. That's it. That's it. That's it. And I try to get it as close as possible. Felt but not heard, right? It's more about feeling that. 1, 2, 3, let 4, let 1, let 2. Okay, so we're using that slapback or double stroke backbeat, right? And that's on 2 and 4. Now we're going to bring back our little buddy on the lits, on the trips. 1 trip, 2 trip, 3 trip, 4 trip. So now we're actually going to play the trip that we worked on before. that's on every beat. And now we're going to put in the backbeat along with it, and we get to keep that note, and it should sound pretty much the same. Play that slower. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. Up, down tap, 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 up, down tap. So I'm doing that upstroke, down tap, up, down tap, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 trip, right? 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet. So now I wrote underneath. Now that's the one that you see in the Lido Shuffle. That's the one that Porcaro was doing in the Lido Shuffle. And, you know, those ghost notes were being played before that tune, but this is a great representation of how those ghost notes can be used and by a guy that just had the most unbelievable feel, and just, man, everything is just so well placed. His time, his feel, his balance of notes just between the hi-hat and the snare drum, just the way it sounds is so good. And that's from a guy that hated shuffles, as myself. So watch this comparison now. So if we do 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 trip, 1 trip, 2, let 3 trip, 4, let 1 trip, 2, let 3 trip, 4, let 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. I like both of them equally, but Jim Hodder played on the second one, and Jeff Porcaro played on the first one. So, all right. So anyway, then I just gave you some bass drum exercises here. So I'm not going to go through all these, but so basically working on that up, down, you know, just working on that one and getting your kick drum in there nice and balanced. 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet. 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1. Second one, 1 triplet, 2, let 3 triplet, 4, let 1. I like that one a lot because I love the space in it. Doom, doom, ska. And it's very, you know, swingy, right? And on the ride, that sounds really nice. Put the 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. So it really breathes, right? And what's that Sting tune, man? I forget the name of it every single time. Got that bass drum thing in it, but that bass drum, you know, sort of like a half a bar clave, right? Boom, boom, ga, boom, boom, ga. So that always feels good, even in the shuffle. All right, let's move forward. I could get carried away and just keep playing all that stuff, but let me do a quick peek over here, see if anybody's saying anything. I had a basement. I had it all in my basement pantry. Oh my God, Jim Mola, you are funny. You are funny. Where's my glasses? Because I can't see what's going on. Does the drunk quintuplet beat count as a shuffle? I think so. I mean, look, we're going to talk about alternate shuffles later. But the one thing the shuffle has to have is swing and an element somewhere of one of the limbs sort of doing the job. You know, it's sort of, you could have a quarter note pulse, but someone else is going to pick up some of the swing somewhere, right? I mean, Daniel Glass was talking about this with the Booker T and the MGs tune, you know, where it's like quarter notes, and the kick drum is really just doing it's part of the shuffle. Boom, boom. Oh, actually, we were just talking about that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that's what I was kind of getting at before. Like, even if we played 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that could work as a shuffle, right? So, and then there's all these alternate sort of patterns that come to mind. I don't want to get ahead of myself. It's later in this evolution thing, but that could count as a shuffle, right? I mean, if you were doing this, the ride is not playing the shuffle. Right, it's all in the snare hand. So, you know, we could kind of we could kind of discuss what's a shuffle and what's not a shuffle. I'm going to talk about some things later that, you know, is it a shuffle or not? But yeah, so let's keep this party rolling. So now we're just going to talk about this. So we're going to move on to the halftime shuffle. So just all we're doing is moving the backbeat to 3. But all these principles are going to kind of stay the same, okay? So all of those same hand techniques are going to apply. So if we do that sort of first muscle memory thing that we did with this, and we're trying to get this note really super slow, really low, rather, to get that almost a shekere thing happening. Check it, check it, check it, check it, check. Be the shaker. I always say it. Be the shaker. I think I'm still on the chat window. Let me move this. Oh, Kettner, what's up, brother? I hope you're ready for tomorrow, my man. Scott Kettner, man. Scott Kettner in the house. Last week I was talking about his book, Maraca 2. For drum set and percussion. This is like amazing stuff because I was doing that layered drumming stuff last time, and so I was talking about Scott's book. If you don't have this, man, definitely check this out. If you're into Brazilian drumming, holy moly, why don't you have this, people? Get it! All right, anyway, back to this. I'm losing my mind. All right, so not the chat. So we're back to here. Oh, I have the wrong thing showing. I apologize. So back to the halftime shuffle. So now we're going to move the backbeat to 3. And I'm going to still do the down, up, 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 down. So shed that, right? 1, lit 2, lit 3, lit 4, lit 1, 3. 1, lit 2, lit 3, lit 4, lit 1, lit 2, lit 3, lit 4, lit 1. Okay, now we're going to use that same trip ghosting pattern, but now it's going to be tap, tap, down. And then we're going to play the slap back, right? The double stroke backbeat. So tap, tap, up, down, tap, 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 up, down, tap. And don't start that too early because you'll wind up with a weird lilt and it'll get in the way. So keep it down until you need it. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 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 1. Same exact motions, right? We're just waiting for that 3. And if this isn't your bag and you don't have your halftime shuffle together, this takes a little bit of patience and work to get that to sit right. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. And we'll get into some, variations of this stuff, but I'm just going to put in the 1 on the bass drum just to ground this whole thing now. So we get 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Right? Same feel. And then, I would work on it at a slow tempo, get all your motions correct, and then experiment with every different tempo for this thing. Very slow tempos, faster tempos, even faster tempos, right? So, but definitely work on the slow tempos because it's that space between the notes that can get you in trouble when these things are slow. So really work it out slow, throw on a click, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. And try and get that as balanced and even as you can. All right, so we're going to put in the let 1 shuffle, right? So halftime shuffle, let 1. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3. Let 1. Let 1. Let 1, right? Super important. All right, so we're moving along. I'm going to keep this party rolling for the moment and try to get through a few of these things. Now we're going to put in the lit of 2. So we get the lit 2. Just checking my time out because, yeah, I'm going to run out of time. We're going to have a part 3. Sorry, it's I don't want to skip stuff, but there's going to be a part 3. I'm just telling you. So now we're going to have 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Right? Let 3. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And again, I'm using that shouldering a little bit there, right? Using that double stroke on the backbeat, right? All right, we'll move this a little bit more. Oh yeah, so we talk about this a little bit. So, the halftime shuffle is attributed to oftentimes to Bernard Purdie, right? And later on, when you get through this booklet, and if you're on my mailing list, this is in your inbox. However, it's already been changed, so don't print it. I know Bob Sears said he already printed it. It's already longer. There's more stuff than what I had sent out earlier today. I'll send out an update to my whole mailing list, all right? So you guys will get this. But and again, this is a work in progress. This will eventually be a book. And I know Daniel's got he's got the Commandments of Early Rhythm and Blues, but I'm just taking a sort of approach of groove construction in it, and less of a historical thing and more of a technique-based groove construction kind of approach to it. But so back to Purdie for a moment. So this is attributed to to Bernard Purdie because I think he was the first one that was kind of getting the shoop sound, like with his hi-hat foot playing quarter notes. And so, if you're playing, think about this. This is a good way to kind of approach starting to get this to happen. So if you're playing like let's do quarter notes on both feet, and we're going to do so I'll play sort of like one of the easier straight ahead patterns for a moment. Not a halftime shuffle, full-time shuffle. Now, I'm going to start playing that hi-hat with just my heel, so I don't want a lot of air getting in. I'm just going to play from the heel, and you can hear it gets pretty low. Now, so you almost don't hear any air getting in. And so I'm just playing from the heel. Now, if you really just only play the heel and you keep the toe pinned, you're not going to get any air in there. Now, if I open too much, it doesn't really have the desired effect. So now I just need just the right amount of pressure. So I'm just opening with the heel and allowing a little bit less toe pressure. So then this, you don't hear anything. I am playing with my heel. Wait, let me show the overhead camera. What am I doing? Just to kind of show like how to start to build this thing. Oh, did that camera go off too? Hey man, how's that? All right, here we go. Oh, I might have to hit the live shot to get that too. Ah, you can see it pretty good. So, okay, so we don't have much air in there. Oh, and here would be all toe. Too much, right? So now, a little bit of just playing from the heel and a little less toe pressure. And that exercise will, you know, it takes a little bit of playing around with your foot to get that to happen. So you can hear how like bad it sounds when you open too much, unless that's what you're going for. But you want almost like you're just letting just the tiniest little bit of oxygen in, right? You're starving the oxygen out of the hi-hat. All right, so we're getting a little bit of air in there. We're starting to get more of that opening sound. And, you know, you're really just playing from your heel. If you start using the toe, it's harder to control. Because I don't want, right? We just want, see how subtle? Okay, so that's the beginnings of that technique, and it really comes down to experimentation to get it right. So if that does give you trouble, I would say, you know, work on the various pressure that you feel from your foot, from your heel, and then that would bring us up to the Purdy shuffle, and then the next thing is going to be getting into grooves, and there's actually. I'm just going to do the last one right here, and that's the hand pattern with the hi-hat foot for the Purdy thing. We're going to get into all the Purdy shuffles, Home at Last, Babylon Sisters, all that good stuff in the section coming up, and that'll be in part 3. But I do want to mention this. So check this out. This was what I was saying about playing on the 4, the backbeat on the 4. This is one of my favorite things. I use this in a tune with my band, and I'll tell you what, I'll keep the Purdy foot thing happening, and I'll show you the hand pattern. So we're just going to hit the double backbeat on 4. That was not on 4. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2. And actually, I don't usually use that hi-hat thing in the tune that I do with it. We do this. got more of that, like an attitude to it, the way that I use it in my band. But so anyway, so that's the last one of that section before we get into all the shuffle grooves. So I think I got a wrap here, but what I'm going to do is let me go to the chat one more time and just check in, because I feel like I tend to forget this, and last time I missed it completely because I didn't have the chat window available. So anyway, so there it is. Oh, Consider Me Gone. That's a good tune. Swinging, bro. What's happening? All right, so I think, it's kind of a funny thing. I think the chat window doesn't really update in my view because I have it like made up so big. But if there is any comments or questions or anything, do it now before I start doing my wrap-up spiel and my sort of my attempt at inspirational talk that I do all the time on my lives. I do want to mention a couple of things actually. And I'll certainly answer anything if anything comes up in the chat. But in this weird time of like everybody trying to rediscover what they do, and we're doing gigs from our houses essentially. This is like a gig. You treat it like a gig. You come into your studio, you get yourself set to play. We're not going out loading drums and doing all that stuff. So this is the next best thing. We live stream. So, support the musicians that are out doing this stuff. Watch people's live streams. This is what we're doing this because we love it and we want to give something. And I try to inspire people to take this technology thing to the highest level they can. Make it sound good, make it look good, make it feel good, have fun with people. I find this to be really enjoyable to get to share this with everybody. I enjoy doing drum education. I love it. I'm writing stuff all the time, and I love bringing it to you 2 days a week, sharing it. And every once in a while, I'll drop in and just do a weird live stream in the middle of the day. But I'm coaching a lot of people around the world on getting their stuff together. So that is one of the things that I'm doing and spending a bit of time on, helping people get their rigs together, which is super fun. Definitely check out tomorrow night. Scott Kettner is doing his live stream at 8 p.m. I believe. I have to double check that, but it'll be definitely on Facebook. So look up Scott Kettner on Facebook. He's doing his thing. And I want to thank everybody that came in here. Jim Mola is another great educator. And seeing many of my students in here, it's just really a beautiful thing. And I really appreciate you guys. And, come and see me on Thursday night. We do the hand technique workshop. If you sign up for the mailing list, I always forget. Sign up for the mailing list. You get the PDF of tonight. So follow the link in the description for the mailing list. If you like what I do, subscribe to my YouTube channel because all my streams are up there. There's a lot. And definitely subscribe because you get the booklets of this stuff that I'm doing. And I will definitely send an updated Shuffle Evolution, which is going to change. So save the ink. Keep it on your computer. It's guaranteed to change. I'm telling you right now. And everybody be safe. Give your families big hugs because this is what it's all about, right? And, I'll be seeing you guys on Thursday. I'm just going to double check this little window one more time. And, all right, sounds good. So listen, gents and ladies, I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm going to roll the credits. And peace and be well and spread love and joy and music. And let's do it. All right. Have a good night.